Hello everyone, my name is Barbara Osei. I identify as a Ghanaian British. I was born in London, but I have a Ghanaian heritage. My parents are from Kumasi, so I am an Ashanti queen. I'm joking. My parents are from Kumasi, so I am Ashanti. And I'm here to talk about myself and things that I have learned that have helped me to become the person that I am today. To sum up my primary years, I guess it would be easy to say that I was born in the UK, and in the early years, around 2, I moved to Ghana and I lived with my grandparents. Around the age of 5, I came back and I attended primary school. So primary school was from the age of 5 to ages 11. And during these years, I must say that I built my confidence, because initially I wasn't a confident child. I've always been very chatty, but I haven't necessarily been very confident. And during those times, we had a huge church and faith community. So I was pulled into the church, and it was actually through being active within the church, I was able to build my confidence, because simple things like having to read in front of hundreds of people, when you're standing in front of so many people that you don't know, you're developing public speaking. I had to sing in front of others. So all of these things really helped me to build my confidence and my security during my primary years. When I began secondary school, which in the UK is at the age of 11, I remember being very keen to reinvent myself. I felt that when I was in primary school, I wasn't really my best self, the best version of myself. So when I started secondary school, I really wanted to be seen as a very strong, confident, and strong-willed individual. So during these years, I made sure I threw myself into loads of extracurricular activities. I loved netball, I loved basketball, I loved volleyball. I joined so many choirs that were in our school, the gospel choir, the chamber choir. I joined debate club. So I threw myself intentionally into multiple activities because I really wanted to nurture myself. Obviously, I sat my GCSEs. Through hard work, I was able to get very good grades, and then I took my A-levels and I picked the sciences because I had a huge love for sciences and just working out and trying to understand how the world worked. And after secondary school, I then went on to university. So I didn't actually attend university straight after my A-levels. I took a year out, and I remember my parents not being pleased. They wanted me to go straight to university because that's what everyone else was doing. However, I wasn't really sure about what I wanted to do. I had an inkling, but I wasn't certain. So I took a year out to discover this. And I'm so happy that I made that decision, because by taking a year out, I learned so much about myself, and I learned so much about the world. You see, when you're in school, you're sheltered from how the world actually works. And when you're thrown into the work life, you're exposed. So I understood how hard it was to make money and then save that money that you've made. I also worked night shifts for a huge retail store, and I was, lifting up boxes which were much heavier than I was, and packing these boxes and unloading. And I realized how hard it was to actually be an adult. Remember, before that, I viewed myself as a child. So because of that experience, it really pushed me to want to go to university, because I knew the kind of life that I wanted to live, and I understood the repercussions of not pushing myself. So at university, I studied pediatric nursing at King's College University, and I'm proud to say that it is one of the universities in the UK. It's a Russell Group university, and in the UK, Russell Group universities are the top 20 universities in the country. And I studied pediatric nursing, and I loved it. But not only did I enjoy the course, I also learned so much about how people like myself, Black young individuals, how they were basically about Black excellence. Because prior to that, the environments and the places that I lived in, I was usually the minority. And when I went to university, there was a huge group of us in the African and Caribbean society, and we came together. And all of those people who were in this group were so inspirational, and they were inspired, and they really wanted to achieve great things. And they were doing, studying great professions. And because I was surrounded by these people, it had a huge impact on me and made me want to work hard, made me want to get the best grade that I could possibly get. And I'm always eternally grateful for my university experience. So I would say one of my top values, or things that are really important to me, is resilience. In this era of where the focus is about mental health, resilience is so important. So resilience is the spirit to fight back. Regardless of what is happening to you, regardless of whatever inward or outward persecution that you're facing, the ability to fight back. And I've really learned that because I've watched my mom, who is the strongest woman that I know. I've watched her fight back. I've watched my siblings, my father, and also people around me, people in the Black community, who have shown me the importance of when if at first you don't succeed, you have to try again. So I would say that fighting against an undercurrent of negativity, which sometimes you may face, especially as a diaspora living in the UK, I've had to become resilient. So that's a very important value and skill for me. I would also say duty, which may sound very ridiculous, but learning the importance of duty and responsibility is a very important value for me. The reason why duty and having a sense of responsibility is important is because sometimes we can become preoccupied with how we think and how we're feeling at that moment, and that can determine whether we want to do something. But when you have a sense of duty and responsibility, you do something because it has to be done. You do something because it's the right thing to do, and that's something that my parents always instilled in me from a very young age. Being somebody who was guided by duty and principles. So it meant that even if I didn't want to do something, I would know that it was something that had to be done, and so I would do it. And I feel that if you have this as a value for yourself, what will happen is you are thinking more about long-term success more than short-term success, and that brings greater lifetime satisfaction. So I would say duty is something that's really important to me. Another value that is extremely important to me, I guess I wouldn't say it's a value, but it's a quote that's always stood out to me, is feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. This has been an inspirational quote to me throughout my childhood, my adolescence, and my adulthood, because there are so many times in which we face particular situations when we're afraid. I can remember picking my A-levels, picking my GCSEs, even changing job, particular friendships, particular relationships, reaching a place when I was really afraid. And the problem with fear is that fear is actually just a lie. It's somebody lying to you and telling you that you need to be afraid and that you should be cautious. But even when that person is speaking to you, if you do it anyway, I've realized that on the other side of fear is freedom. Because when, for instance, I wanted to change my job or change my career, after I made that huge decision to leave, I was able to then start in a new company, a company that was more aligned with my values and my principles, and I was happier. So I think it's important that even if we are facing something that's going to make us so afraid, make us so fearful, it's important to just do it anyway. I've also been asked to mention a quote that is really important to me. And it's very funny how I came about this quote, because I remember I was in year 9, so age 14, and actually I had been sent out of the class to go and see my head of year. So outside my head of year's office is a table and a chair where you sit and you wait to meet your head of year. And I was sitting and waiting, and I looked up and I saw a poster. It was very colourful, bright colours, and the poster said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And it really spoke to me, those words, because I was just reflecting on, well, what change do I want to see in the world? And the more and more I thought about it, I realized that, every day we go around, and sometimes in the news we hear negativity, we hear bad things that are taking place in the world, persecutions, injustice. So be the change that you want to see in the world is understanding that if there is something that you can do, if there's a difference that you can make, don't wait for somebody else to make that difference. If you can make that difference, then you should go ahead. Sometimes what we do is that we rely on other people to come about and make these changes in society. Or we may say that it's the government's responsibility, it's our neighbour's responsibility, it's my friend's responsibility. But what about your own personal responsibility? So I've always lived my life by the principle of be the change you want to see in the world. If I see something and I think that I can make a difference and I'm not happy about the thing that I've seen, I think about the skills that I've developed and the things that I have nurtured, and I just try and put these skills together and see what difference I can make. So my hobbies have changed throughout my childhood to my adulthood. I started off as a child very much into sports, very, very sporty. And now my hobbies are things like trying to learn how to crochet or trying to learn a new skill online. But there's one thing that I loved when I was growing up, and that was reading. And I know everyone says this, but honestly, reading played a huge role in my life. I remember that my dad used to read to me when I was a child. Every evening before bed, he would pick up a book, and sometimes it would be the Bible, and would read Bible stories, or would read a chapter from a new book that he was actually interested in. And I used to read because at that point my parents expected me to. And then I found the genre of fantasy. And once I found the genre of fantasy, that was it. You couldn't stop me from picking up a book. And I fell in love with Harry Potter. And if you don't know Harry Potter, I'm very disappointed in you, but Harry Potter is one of the best books that I think that have been written for children. It is a fantasy world about a boy who grows up in really difficult circumstances, and he then grows up to be the person that's going to save the wizarding world. And when I say I loved Harry Potter, I was literally obsessed, to the point at which during the summer holidays, I would have friends who would come and knock on my door and ask to play out. And I would tell my mum to tell them that I'm not allowed to go outside because she said so, just so I could stay at home and finish these chapters. When you find a good book and you get lost in it, not only do you learn a new range of vocabulary, but you learn to be creative, you develop innovation. And I would always encourage every child out there to go out and start reading. If you don't enjoy a particular book, pick up and try and find a different genre, because when you find a different genre, you may realize that actually this is what you've been looking for all your life. So when I think about the advice that is important for the next generation, the thing that always comes to head is think outside the box. Think outside the box. I know it sounds like such a cliche term, but it's not. Because unfortunately, when we grow up in the world, we're taught to think a particular way and do a certain thing that adheres to society's norms. And what that sometimes does is it stifles us, and it prevents us from actually being creative with our thinking, trying to find solutions, trying to find ways to solve world problems. And I think if we teach children to be creative, to think outside the box, to think of new possibilities, then it will actually change the face of the world. When we think about the era that we are in, the technological age, the only way we've reached this particular period is because of people like Mark Zuckerberg, people like Bill Gates. All of these people had an amazing and tremendous impact on the world that we have today. They were able to change the world because they thought outside the box. Steve Jobs thought outside the box and pioneered Apple. So I would love for children and parents as well to think about the best way in which I can nurture the ability of critical thinking, of being innovative. Because thinking outside the box is not just about playing, it's not just about having fun at school, it's actually about changing the world.